What would you do if the child you raised, sacrificed for, and protected from the storms of the world looked you in the eye one day and said, "We're moving you into a nursing home tomorrow, Mom. I've already signed the papers." No warning, no discussion, just a signature and a goodbye. Tonight's story isn't just about betrayal. It's about secrets buried in Florida sunlight, about a mother who thought she was losing everything, and about the truth that changes everything at the very last moment. This is Jennifer's story. The Florida sun was still blazing at 7:42 p.m. Palm trees along the quiet suburban street in Clearwater swayed lazily in the humid breeze, their shadows stretching across manicured lawns like long, tired fingers. Cicadas buzzed in the distance. The scent of salt from the Gulf floated faintly through the air. Inside a beige two-story house at the end of Sandpiper Lane, Jennifer Holloway stood at the kitchen sink, her hands submerged in warm, soapy water, staring at nothing. She was 68. Her silver-streaked chestnut hair was tied back in a low bun. The kitchen walls were a soft pastel yellow, decorated with framed family photos. Disney World trips, Christmas mornings, high school graduations. A lifetime of memories neatly preserved. The front door opened. Jennifer didn't turn around. She knew the rhythm of those footsteps. "Mom," her son called out. Caleb Holloway, 38. Real estate consultant. Sharp suits. Expensive watch. Constantly on his phone. The kind of man who always walked fast, even inside his own house. "I'm in the kitchen," Jennifer replied softly. He walked in, loosening his tie. The Florida heat had left a sheen of sweat along his hairline. He didn't smile. He didn't kiss her cheek like he usually did. He didn't ask about dinner. He placed a manila envelope on the counter. And then he said it. "We're moving you into a nursing home tomorrow, Mom. I've already signed the papers." The sound of running water filled the silence that followed. Jennifer didn't move. For a moment, she thought she had misheard him. Maybe the water had distorted his words. She slowly turned off the faucet. "What did you say?" Her voice was calm. Too calm. Caleb exhaled sharply, as if repeating himself was an inconvenience. "Mom, you can't live alone anymore. You fell last month. The doctor said you need supervision. I found a really good place in Tampa. It's private, clean, safe." Jennifer blinked. "I fell because I tripped over your gym bag." "That's not the point." Her heart began to pound, not with fear, but with something colder. "Tomorrow?" she asked. "Yes. They have an opening. I signed everything. It's better this way." "Better." Jennifer looked at the envelope. Her name was printed neatly on the front. Jennifer Holloway, admission documents. "I wasn't part of this conversation," she said. Caleb rubbed his temples. "Mom, please don't make this harder than it has to be." "Harder." She glanced around the kitchen. The refrigerator still had the magnet from when Caleb was in 3rd grade. Future astronaut. She had worked double shifts at Mercy Hospital to pay for his science camp that summer. "When did you decide this?" she asked quietly. Caleb avoided her eyes. "After the neurologist appointment." Her stomach dropped. "The appointment you said was routine?" He hesitated. "They ran some cognitive tests, Mom. You didn't score well." Jennifer felt as if the ground had tilted. "I forgot 3 words on a memory test," she whispered. 3 words. Caleb's jaw tightened. "That's how it starts. That's how it starts." Outside, a car drove past. The distant laughter of neighborhood kids echoed down the street. Life continuing. Normal. Jennifer folded her wet hands in a dish towel. "Did you ever think to ask me what I wanted?" Caleb's voice grew sharper. "It's not about what you want. It's about what's safe. And what's convenient," she shot back. Silence. There it was. A flicker in his eyes. Guilt. No. Impatience. "Mom, I travel constantly. I can't keep checking on you every day. And honestly," he stopped himself. "Honestly what?" He swallowed. "This house is too much for you." "The house." Jennifer looked at the ceiling. At the crown molding she had insisted on installing herself when Caleb's father was still alive. This wasn't about her memory. It wasn't about safety. It was about the house. Clearwater real estate had skyrocketed. She'd heard him talking on the phone about listings in this neighborhood selling for nearly $1 million. "Are you planning to sell it?" she asked quietly. Caleb stiffened. "That's not what this is about." She stepped closer to him. "Look at me and tell me you're not planning to sell my home." He finally met her eyes and didn't answer. The silence was louder than any confession. Jennifer felt something inside her fracture. Not her mind, not her memory, but her trust. You already signed the papers, she repeated, her voice hollow. Yes. Without my permission. Without asking. Without caring. She nodded slowly, as if absorbing the blow with dignity. When do I leave? Tomorrow morning. 10. He checked his watch. I have a showing at 4, so we should start packing tonight. Packing. As if she were going on vacation. Jennifer walked past him into the living room. The hardwood floors creaked beneath her feet. The Florida sunset painted the room in streaks of orange and pink. Dust particles floated in the golden light. On the mantel sat a photograph of Caleb at age 7, missing his front teeth, holding up a trophy from a little league game. She remembered the day. It had rained that morning. She'd almost missed the game because her shift ran late. But she ran from the hospital parking lot in her scrubs, still smelling of antiseptic, just to see him hit that winning run. He had jumped into her arms afterward. I couldn't have done it without you, Mom. Now he stood in the doorway, arms crossed. We don't have to make this dramatic. Jennifer let out a soft laugh. I gave you my entire life. Mom. No, listen to me. Her voice trembled, but she didn't cry. When your father died, I worked 16-hour shifts so you could stay in this school district. I skipped meals so you could have new cleats. I never dated again because I didn't want some stranger raising you. Caleb looked uncomfortable. I'm grateful for that. But this isn't about the past. It's always about the past, she said. The air felt heavy. Thunder rumbled faintly in the distance, a typical Florida summer storm rolling in from the Gulf. I'm not senile, she said firmly. I still drive. I cook. I pay my bills. You forgot to pay the water bill last month. I paid it 2 days late. Caleb's voice rose. You left the stove on. For 5 minutes. They stared at each other, both breathing harder. Then Caleb did something unexpected. He softened. Mom, I'm scared. The confession hung in the air. Scared of what? He hesitated. Of losing you. Jennifer's anger faltered. Then don't send me away. It's not sending you away. It's protecting you. But the way he said it felt rehearsed. As if he'd practiced the line. Jennifer studied her son's face. There was something else there. Not just fear. Not just stress. Something hidden. What aren't you telling me? She asked quietly. Caleb's phone buzzed. He glanced at the screen and quickly flipped it face down. Nothing. Caleb. It's nothing, Mom. I need this to work. Okay. Need this to work. That wasn't about her health. That was about something else. Lightning flashed outside the window. Rain began tapping against the glass. Jennifer felt a strange clarity wash over her. If her son believed she was losing her mind, maybe she needed to prove she wasn't. She nodded slowly. Fine. Caleb looked surprised. You'll go? For now. Relief washed over his face. But I want to see the paperwork. Sure, he said too quickly. He handed her the envelope. Jennifer opened it carefully, scanning the documents. Admission forms. Medical notes. Financial agreements. And then she saw something that made her heart stop. A property assessment attached to the back. Her house. Appraised at $1.2 million. With a note scribbled in pen. Client ready to list immediately after relocation. Client. Not owner. Client. Her fingers trembled, but not from age. From realization. This wasn't about protecting her. This was about liquidating her. She slowly closed the folder. I'll start packing, she said softly. Caleb exhaled in relief. Thank you, Mom. You'll see. This is for the best. As he walked upstairs to grab boxes, Jennifer remained standing in the kitchen. Rain pounded harder now. Thunder cracked across the sky. She reached into her pocket and pulled out her phone. Her hands were steady. She scrolled to a contact she hadn't called in years. Mr. Lawson, her late husband's attorney. The one who had handled their estate planning. The one Caleb didn't know she still spoke to. The phone rang. Once. Twice. Then a voice answered. Lawson and Green. Jennifer took a deep breath. This is Jennifer Holloway. I need to review my will. Immediately. Upstairs, Caleb dragged boxes across the hallway floor. He didn't hear her next words. And I need to know exactly who has legal authority over my property. Lightning illuminated the room. And in that flash of light, Jennifer's expression changed. Not confused. Not fragile. Strategic. Because if her son thought she was helpless, he had underestimated the woman who raised him. And as the storm raged outside over Clearwater, Jennifer began planning something Caleb would never see coming. The rain hadn't stopped by morning. Florida storms didn't ease out politely. They slammed through the night and left the sky bruised gray by dawn. Water pooled along the curb outside Jennifer Holloway's home, reflecting the swaying palm trees like a distorted memory. At 6:12 a.m., Jennifer was already dressed. Not in pajamas. Not in something soft and defeated. She wore a pale blue blouse, tailored slacks, and the pearl earrings her husband had given her on their 25th anniversary. Her silver hair was neatly styled. Light makeup. Lipstick steady. If she was going to be exiled from her own life, she would not look like a victim. She stood at the kitchen island, reviewing the paperwork again. Every signature. Every clause. At 7:03 a.m., her phone buzzed. "Jennifer," came the familiar baritone voice of Mr. Lawson. "I reviewed your file first thing this morning." "And?" she asked. There was a pause. "Your son does not have power of attorney." Jennifer closed her eyes briefly. "Are you certain?" "Absolutely. You amended your will 5 years ago. After that fall Caleb had with the motorcycle accident. You specifically declined granting him financial authority." Yes. She remembered that day. Caleb had been reckless back then. Speeding, drinking too much, impulsive investments. She'd protected him from himself more than once. "And the house?" she asked quietly. "It's solely in your name. Always has been." Jennifer felt something cold settle into place. "So he cannot sell it?" "Not legally," Lawson said. But what? If you move into a full-time care facility, and if he petitions the court claiming cognitive decline, he could attempt to gain conservatorship." The word hit her like ice water. Conservatorship. "He'd have to prove you're mentally incompetent," Lawson continued. "Medical documentation would be key." Jennifer thought about the neurologist appointment. The rushed questions. The clipboard. The nurse who barely made eye contact. "Can cognitive tests be manipulated?" she asked. Silence on the other end. "They can be interpreted creatively." Jennifer's jaw tightened. "And if I refuse to move? You are legally allowed to remain in your home. Even if he already signed admission forms?" "Yes. Without your consent, those forms are meaningless." Upstairs, a thud echoed, Caleb moving furniture. Jennifer's voice dropped to a whisper. "I think he's in financial trouble. Do you have proof?" "Not yet." "Then gather it," Lawson said calmly. "And Jennifer?" "Yes. Do not confront him until you understand the full picture." The call ended. Jennifer stood very still. Outside, the storm finally began to fade. Sunlight pushed weakly through thinning clouds, turning the wet pavement into shimmering silver. She wasn't going anywhere. Not today. Footsteps descended the staircase. Caleb entered the kitchen holding 2 cardboard boxes. "I packed most of your bedroom," he said briskly. "We'll just take essentials. The facility provides furniture." "Facility." Jennifer poured herself coffee. "Sit down," she said evenly. He frowned. "Mom, we don't have time." "Sit." Something in her tone made him obey. He lowered himself into the chair across from her. She slid the folder across the table. "I spoke to Mr. Lawson." Caleb's eyes flickered. "Why?" "Because I am not incompetent." He leaned back slowly. "This isn't about." "You do not have power of attorney," she continued, voice steady. "You cannot move me anywhere without my consent." His jaw tightened. "I'm trying to help you." "No," she said softly. "You're trying to control me." Silence expanded between them. A car drove past outside. The normalcy felt surreal. Caleb's composure began to crack. "You don't understand how bad things are," he muttered. Jennifer's heart skipped. "How bad what is?" He looked away. "Nothing." She leaned forward. "Caleb." His hands clenched. "I made some investments." Her pulse quickened. "In what?" "Pre-construction condos in Miami. Luxury waterfront units." It was supposed to flip fast. "And the developer filed bankruptcy." The words dropped like stones. "How much?" she asked. He didn't answer. "Caleb, 800,000. Jennifer inhaled sharply. "You don't have that kind of money." "I leveraged assets." "What assets?" He didn't speak. Her stomach twisted. "You used this house as collateral." His silence confirmed it. The kitchen felt suddenly airless. "You forged my signature," she whispered. "I thought I could pay it back before you noticed." "Noticed?" Her voice cracked for the first time. "You gambled my home." Caleb shot up from his chair. "I was trying to secure our future. Do you know what healthcare costs in this state? Do you know what assisted living costs? I was thinking long-term. By risking everything?" He ran a hand through his hair, pacing now. "You don't get it. If the bank calls the loan, they'll take the house anyway. Selling it now on our terms is smarter. Our terms? She repeated. He stopped pacing. They're giving me 90 days. Jennifer felt dizzy. 90 days. And if you can't pay, they foreclose. The pieces aligned brutally. The rushed nursing home placement. The appraisal. The urgency. You weren't protecting me, she said hollowly. I was protecting us. There is no us in this, she snapped. He looked at her then, not as a son, but as a desperate man cornered. I didn't have a choice. You always have a choice. Lightning flickered faintly in the distance, remnants of the storm. Jennifer stood. You will cancel the nursing home admission. He hesitated. Mom, today. And then what? He demanded. We just wait for the bank to take everything? No, she said quietly. We fight. He stared at her. You don't have the money. No, she agreed. But I have something else. What? She walked toward the hallway closet. From the top shelf, she pulled down a small locked fireproof box. Caleb's eyes narrowed. What is that? Something your father left behind. She placed the box on the kitchen table. For years, she had never opened it in Caleb's presence. It was tied to memories too sacred, too painful. She unlocked it slowly. Inside were documents, stock certificates, a sealed envelope. Caleb's breathing changed. What is this? Your father invested quietly, she said. After his cancer diagnosis. In what? She handed him the envelope. He tore it open. His eyes scanned the page. And then widened. Mom, this can't be real. It is. Shares. Thousands of them. In a small tech startup her husband had believed in before he passed away. A company that, over the past decade, had exploded into a billion-dollar enterprise. Caleb looked up at her, stunned. Why didn't you tell me? Because you were reckless, she said gently. And I was waiting for the right moment. His voice trembled. This is worth millions. Yes. Silence consumed the room. The storm clouds outside finally parted. Sunlight streamed through the window, illuminating dust motes like drifting stars. We can pay off the loan, Caleb whispered. Yes. And still have enough left to. Jennifer raised her hand. But it's not yours. His face froze. It was never meant to be a bailout for bad decisions. Mom, you tried to remove me from my own life, she said steadily. You forged documents. You nearly stripped me of my home. Desperation returned to his eyes. I was drowning. And you thought pushing me under would save you? The words hit him hard. Jennifer closed the box. I will consider helping you, she continued. But under conditions. What conditions? You sign a legal agreement relinquishing any claim to this house. Permanently. His expression shifted, from shock to something darker. That's insane. No, she said calmly. It's protection. You don't trust me. She looked at him long and hard. Should I? The question lingered like thick humidity. Caleb's phone buzzed again on the counter. This time, Jennifer picked it up before he could. A text preview lit the screen. Unknown number, final notice. Payment required by Friday or legal action proceeds. She handed him the phone slowly. Friday, she said. That's 3 days. He swallowed. If you don't help me, I lose everything. Jennifer met his gaze. You already almost cost me everything. He stared at her, anger, fear, shame battling behind his eyes. Then, quietly, he said something that made her blood run cold. You're not the only one whose name is on that loan. The words landed heavy. What did you just say? Caleb didn't answer. He didn't need to. Jennifer's breath caught. Because if her name was tied legally to that debt, then the bank wasn't just coming for him. They were coming for her. And this time, it wasn't about a nursing home. It was about survival. The Florida sun burned brighter outside, cruelly beautiful against the rising tension inside the house. 3 days. Until everything detonated. The Florida heat was suffocating by noon. Not the gentle warmth tourists imagined when they booked beach vacations, but the heavy, pressing kind that wrapped around your lungs and made every breath feel earned. Jennifer stood in the driveway staring at the mailbox. It looked the same as it always had. White, slightly chipped at the edges. Caleb had painted it when he was 12 as a summer chore, grumbling the entire time. Now it felt like a ticking bomb. She opened it slowly. Inside was a thick envelope stamped with the cold blue logo of a national bank. Certified mail. Her name printed clearly beneath Caleb's. Jennifer Holloway. And Caleb Holloway. Joint obligors. Her pulse hammered in her ears. She didn't open it outside. She walked back into the house, each step deliberate, the humid air clinging to her skin. Inside, the AC hummed quietly. The kitchen still smelled faintly of coffee and rain-damp air. Caleb stood at the counter, staring at his laptop, fingers trembling over the keyboard. "Did it come?" he asked without looking up. Jennifer placed the envelope on the table between them. "It's addressed to both of us." His face drained of color. "I didn't think they'd move this fast." "You didn't think?" Her voice was calm, but there was steel beneath it now. He ran a hand down his face. "I thought I had more time." Jennifer slit open the envelope carefully with a butter knife. Inside were pages of legal language. Dense. Impersonal. Merciless. Notice of default. Immediate payment required. $812,347.16. Failure to remit funds by Friday 5 p.m. will result in initiation of foreclosure proceedings. Jennifer read it twice. Then a third time. "How?" she asked slowly. "Did my name get on this?" Caleb swallowed. "They required additional security. And I told them you were aware." Her heart thudded painfully. "Did you forge my signature?" His silence answered her. She closed her eyes. The betrayal felt deeper than the nursing home conversation. Deeper than the house. He hadn't just tried to move her. He had legally chained her to his sinking ship. "You committed fraud," she whispered. "I was desperate. You risked prison. I was trying to fix it before it got this far." Jennifer felt something shift inside her. Not breaking this time, but hardening. "Sit down," she said. He obeyed, like a boy called to the principal's office. She pulled out her phone. "Who are you calling?" he asked nervously. "Mr. Lawson." "Mom, no." "Yes." She stepped into the living room, away from him, but not far enough that she couldn't see his panic. The line rang once. "Jennifer." Lawson answered immediately. "They put me on the loan," she said quietly. A pause. "Did you sign anything?" "No." "Then it's forgery. And if I report it?" There was weight in his response. "Your son could face felony charges." Jennifer's throat tightened. The word felony echoed like thunder in her skull. Behind her, Caleb stood frozen in the kitchen doorway, listening. "Is there another way?" she asked. "There's always another way," Lawson replied carefully. "But it depends on what you're willing to risk." Jennifer stared at the framed family photos on the wall. Caleb at graduation. Caleb in his first suit. Caleb holding her hand at his father's funeral. "I'm willing to risk everything," she said quietly. "Then we need leverage," Lawson replied. "Do not pay them yet." The call ended. Jennifer turned back toward her son. He looked smaller somehow. Not physically. Emotionally. "They'll arrest me, won't they?" he asked. She didn't answer immediately. "I don't want to," she finally said. Relief flickered across his face. "But I will if you lie to me again." He nodded quickly. Okay. She walked back into the kitchen and sat down across from him. "Tell me everything." And this time he did. It started 18 months ago. A client in Miami had pitched him on luxury waterfront condos, pre-construction units with projected 40% returns. Exclusive. High demand. Fast flips. Caleb had gone all in. Not just savings. He leveraged credit. Then borrowed against future commissions. Then, when the market cooled and the developer stalled, he doubled down to average out losses. Each decision worse than the last. "And the nursing home?" she asked. His eyes fell. "If you were legally declared unable to manage finances, I could have petitioned for control. Then sold the house cleanly. Paid the bank. No fraud investigation." Jennifer stared at him. "So you were going to paint me incompetent to protect yourself." He didn't deny it. Silence thickened the room. Outside, a lawn service truck roared down the street. A neighbor waved casually, unaware that financial ruin hovered inside the Holloway home. "I never thought it would spiral like this," Caleb whispered. "It always spirals," she said softly. "That's what greed does." He flinched at the word. "I wasn't greedy. I was ambitious. There's a difference." Her voice softened, not forgiving, but understanding. "Your father had ambition," she continued, "but he never risked what he couldn't lose." Caleb looked at the fireproof box on the table. "You're going to use Dad's stocks to fix this, aren't you?" Jennifer folded her hands. "No." His head snapped up. "What?" "I will not reward deception." "Mom, please. I will protect my name. And my house. You're willing to let me drown?" Her eyes sharpened. "You tied my ankle to the anchor." The words hit him hard. She stood and walked to the window. The Florida sun was blazing now. the earlier storm forgotten, as if it had never happened. That was Florida's way, chaos followed by deceptive beauty. "We're going to the bank," she said suddenly. Caleb blinked. "What? Right now? For what?" "To speak directly to whoever issued this loan. They won't talk to you." "They will." Her tone left no room for argument. 30 minutes later, they drove through downtown Clearwater. Traffic lights reflected off the windshield. Tourists in flip-flops crossed streets toward beachside restaurants. Life continued with infuriating normalcy. The bank building stood tall and sterile, glass windows reflecting endless blue sky. Inside, the air smelled like polished marble and quiet power. A young receptionist looked up. "Can I help you?" "Yes," Jennifer said calmly. "I'd like to speak to the branch manager regarding loan 7843H. The woman typed something, eyes widening slightly. "One moment." They were escorted into a private office. The branch manager, a man in his early 40s with perfectly styled hair and a corporate smile, extended his hand. "Mrs. Holloway." "Mr. Holloway." Jennifer didn't shake it. "I did not authorize this loan," she said immediately. The smile faltered. "I beg your pardon?" "My signature was forged." Caleb inhaled sharply beside her. The manager's posture changed subtly. "That's a serious allegation. It's a serious crime." Silence. The manager folded his hands. "If that's the case, we'll need to conduct an internal review." "And until then?" Jennifer asked. "The account remains in default. Even under fraud investigation?" He hesitated. "Standard procedure." Jennifer leaned forward. "My husband was a decorated Navy officer," she said quietly. "I worked 35 years as a nurse in this state. If this bank knowingly processed a forged document, I will not handle it quietly." The manager studied her differently now. Not as a frail, elderly woman, but as a threat. "We'll expedite the review," he said carefully. "How long?" 48 hours. Friday. The deadline. Jennifer nodded slowly. "We'll expect written confirmation." They stood to leave. As they exited the office, Caleb grabbed her arm gently. "You could have destroyed me in there." She met his gaze. "You destroyed trust first." Outside, the sunlight felt harsher. They walked toward the car in silence. Halfway across the parking lot, Caleb's phone rang. He glanced at the screen. Unknown number. He answered. "Yes." His expression shifted instantly. "What do you mean you've contacted the district attorney?" Jennifer stopped walking. Caleb's face drained of color. No, that's not necessary. We're handling it." He lowered the phone slowly. "Who is that?" Jennifer asked. "The developer." Her heart pounded. "They're being investigated. Federal level." "For what?" "Fraud. Securities manipulation." The world tilted slightly. "And," she pressed, "and they're claiming investors falsified documents too." Jennifer's stomach dropped. "Caleb, did you sign anything else?" He hesitated. And that hesitation told her everything. The storm wasn't over. It had just moved offshore, gathering strength. Because now it wasn't just a bank. It wasn't just foreclosure. It was federal investigation. And if Caleb had falsified investment disclosures, her name might be entangled again. Jennifer looked up at the blazing Florida sky. Beautiful. Deceptive. Dangerous. "Get in the car," she said quietly. "Where are we going?" She looked at him steadily. "To find out exactly how deep you've buried us." As thunder rumbled faintly somewhere far off over the Gulf, Jennifer realized something terrifying. The nursing home had never been the worst betrayal. The real betrayal was how far her own son was willing to fall, and how far she might have to let him fall, to save them both. The federal building in downtown Tampa rose like a slab of gray judgment against the Florida sky. The air outside shimmered with heat, but inside the lobby everything was cold. Cold marble floors, cold fluorescent lights, cold security officers who didn't smile. Jennifer adjusted her pearl earrings as she stepped through the metal detector. At 68, she had never imagined walking into a federal office building because of her own son. Caleb walked beside her, jaw tight, sweat forming at his temples despite the air conditioning. "You don't have to come in with me," he muttered. "Yes," she said calmly. "I do." They had received the call an hour earlier. A federal investigator wanted to clarify documentation discrepancies tied to the collapsed Miami development project. Clarify. Such a gentle word for something that could ruin a life. They were escorted down a long hallway lined with closed doors and American flags mounted in polished brass holders. The muffled hum of government offices buzzed like a restrained storm. Room 417. The investigator waiting inside wasn't what Jennifer expected. Special Agent Marcus Reed looked to be in his mid-40s, composed, sharp-eyed, wearing a simple navy suit instead of something intimidating. But his gaze was clinical, analytical. "Mrs. Holloway." "Mr. Holloway," he greeted evenly. Jennifer noticed immediately. He addressed her first. They sat. Agent Reed opened a slim file. "Mr. Holloway, we're investigating Crescent Harbor Development for securities fraud and falsified investor declarations. Several investment portfolios list financial backers who, according to our findings, were unaware their names were used." Jennifer's pulse spiked. Agent Reed turned a page. "Mrs. Holloway, your name appears on 2 investor certification forms." The room seemed to shrink. "I never invested in that project," Jennifer said clearly. Caleb's breathing quickened beside her. Reed nodded slowly. "That's what we suspected." Jennifer looked at her son. He stared at the floor. "Caleb," she whispered. "It was temporary," he rushed out. "I just needed to show higher liquidity to secure priority placement. I was going to remove your name before closing." Agent Reed watched the exchange silently. "You signed her name?" Jennifer asked. "Yes." The word landed like a gunshot. Agent Reed folded his hands. "Mrs. Holloway, based on what we've gathered, you appear to be a victim of identity fraud." Jennifer swallowed. "And my son?" Reed's expression didn't change. "That depends on his level of cooperation." The silence that followed felt heavier than anything she'd experienced so far. The nursing home plan. The forged loan. Now federal fraud. Jennifer felt the weight of every sacrifice she had made for Caleb pressing against her ribs. Agent Reed slid a document across the table. "Mr. Holloway, if you cooperate fully, provide internal communications, contracts, names, we may recommend leniency." Leniency. A thin thread of hope. Caleb looked at Jennifer. Fear. Shame. Desperation. "I never meant for it to get this far," he said, voice breaking. Jennifer studied him. This wasn't the confident real estate consultant anymore. This was her son at 17, standing in the driveway after denting the family car, terrified of disappointing her. But this time the stakes weren't a car door. They were prison bars. "Tell the truth," she said quietly. He nodded slowly. Agent Reed began recording a formal statement. Names. Emails. Offshore accounts. Developers pressuring investors to inflate asset declarations. Jennifer listened, each detail carving a painful understanding into her heart. This wasn't just Caleb being reckless. He had been manipulated too. Enticed by promises of elite access, fast profits, status. Ambition weaponized against him. After 2 hours, the statement ended. Agent Reed closed the file. "Mr. Holloway, based on your cooperation today, we will note your assistance. However, you are not cleared. Do not leave the state." Caleb nodded. Reed turned to Jennifer. "Mrs. Holloway, you may wish to pursue separate legal action regarding the forged documents." Jennifer's eyes flicked toward her son. Separate legal action, meaning she could protect herself fully and leave him exposed. They walked out of the building into blinding Florida sunlight. For a moment, neither spoke. Cars rushed past on Kennedy Boulevard. Palm trees bent slightly in the coastal breeze. Life indifferent. Caleb stopped walking. "I'm sorry," he said. Not defensive. Not strategic. Raw. Jennifer looked at him long and hard. "You didn't just risk money," she said softly. "You risked your integrity." Tears welled in his eyes. "I know. You tried to put me in a nursing home to clean up your mess." He nodded. "I panicked." She inhaled slowly. "I raised you better than that." The words hurt more than any accusation. Caleb broke then, shoulders shaking. "I was drowning, Mom. Every deal was falling apart. Every lender calling. I couldn't sleep. I couldn't breathe. And I kept thinking if I could just fix it before you found out." "You could erase it," she finished. "Yes." They stood there in the heat, mother and son, exposed in more ways than one. Jennifer's phone buzzed. "Mr. Lawson." She answered. "I spoke with the bank," he said. "They've frozen the foreclosure pending fraud investigation." Relief washed over her. "And the loan? Likely void if signature forgery is proven." She closed her eyes briefly. One crisis contained, but another remained. She looked at Caleb. "The house is safe," she said. He exhaled shakily. "For now." They drove back to Clearwater in silence. The sky had turned a deep, endless blue again, as if Florida itself refused to hold on to storms. Back inside the house, Jennifer walked slowly through each room. The living room where Caleb took his first steps. The kitchen where she helped him with math homework. The hallway where she measured his height every birthday. This house wasn't just property. It was history. Caleb stood in the doorway. What happens now? He asked. Jennifer turned to him. Now you face consequences. His face paled. I cooperated. Yes. But trust doesn't regenerate overnight. He nodded slowly. And us? The question lingered painfully. Jennifer walked to the fireproof box and placed it on the table. She opened it again. The stock certificates glinted softly under the kitchen light. Your father left this as security, she said. Not as a safety net for bad decisions. I understand. She studied him carefully. For the first time in weeks, she didn't see manipulation. She saw humility, fear, and something else. Growth. I will use a portion of this, she continued slowly, to hire the best attorney possible for you. Caleb's head snapped up. What? You will repay every dollar over time. Tears rolled down his face. I don't deserve that. No, she said honestly. You don't. Silence. But I'm not saving you from consequences, she added firmly. If charges are filed, you face them. If fines are issued, you pay them. This is support, not escape. He nodded, overwhelmed. And the house? He asked softly. You will sign documents tomorrow relinquishing any claim. Permanently. Yes. No arguments. None. She stepped closer to him. And you will attend therapy. He blinked. Therapy. For whatever inside you believed risking everything was acceptable. He swallowed. Okay. Outside, the sun began to set, casting warm amber light across Sandpiper Lane. For the first time in days, the house felt steady. Not safe, but steady. Jennifer moved toward the window. You said you were scared of losing me, she said quietly. I was. You almost did. He stepped closer, hesitant. I don't want money, she said. I don't want control. I want honesty. You'll have it. She turned toward him. Trust is rebuilt slowly. Brick by brick. He nodded. Then, unexpectedly, he hugged her. Not tightly. Not desperately. Just gently. And for a brief moment, she let herself hold her son again. But as the sun dipped below the horizon, Jennifer knew something Caleb didn't. Agent Reed's words echoed in her mind. You are not cleared. Cooperation didn't guarantee freedom. And if the federal case widened, Caleb might still face indictment. The storm offshore hadn't fully passed. It was circling, waiting. And the next knock on the door might not be from a bank. It might be from a federal marshal. Jennifer stared at the darkening sky. She had saved the house. But could she save her son? The knock came at 6:18 a.m. Not loud, not aggressive, but official. Florida mornings have a softness to them. Humid air still cool from the night, pale pink sunlight stretching over rooftops, distant seagulls drifting in from the Gulf. The world usually feels forgiving at that hour. This morning it didn't. Jennifer was already awake. She hadn't slept much. She had been sitting at the kitchen table since 5:30, hands wrapped around untouched coffee, staring at the front door like she knew something was coming. When the knock sounded again, Caleb froze halfway down the staircase. They looked at each other. No words were needed. Jennifer stood first. Her back was straight, her step steady. She opened the door. Two men stood on the porch in suits. Not uniforms. Not aggressive. Calm. Controlled. Mrs. Holloway? The taller one asked. Yes. We're with the U.S. Attorney's Office. We have a warrant for Caleb Holloway. The words hit the air like a cold blade. Caleb stepped forward behind her. I'm here, he said quietly. Jennifer didn't move aside immediately. For what charge? She asked evenly. Conspiracy to commit securities fraud and falsification of financial declarations. There it was. The storm had made landfall. Caleb exhaled slowly. I'll come, he said. The agents nodded. You're not being treated as a flight risk, one added. You'll be processed and released pending hearing. Jennifer stepped back. Not because she had to, but because she chose to. As they placed light restraints on Caleb's wrists, he looked at her, not with panic, with acceptance. I'm sorry, he whispered. She nodded once. I know. The neighbor's sprinklers turned on across the street. A dog barked somewhere in the distance. A jogger passed by without realizing history was shifting on Sandpiper Lane. Caleb walked down the driveway between the two agents. He didn't resist. He didn't argue. Jennifer stood in the doorway until the car disappeared around the corner. Only then did she close the door. The house was silent. Not hollow. Just quiet. She walked back to the kitchen and sat down again. For a long moment, she allowed herself to feel everything. The betrayal, the humiliation, the fear. But beneath all of it, a strange, steady clarity. She had done what was right, not what was easy. 2 weeks later, the Florida courthouse buzzed with low murmurs and the shuffle of polished shoes against tile floors. Ceiling fans spun lazily overhead, doing little to cut the heat that seeped through thick walls. Jennifer sat in the second row. Caleb stood at the defense table beside his attorney, the one she had paid for. He looked different. Simpler. No expensive watch. No designer suit. Just a navy jacket and humility. The prosecutor laid out the case clearly. Inflated asset declarations. Forged signatures. Investor manipulation. But also cooperation. Voluntary testimony. Assistance in exposing larger fraud networks. Agent Reed testified briefly. Mr. Holloway's cooperation materially assisted this investigation. The judge listened carefully. Jennifer watched her son's profile. He didn't look at her. He stared forward. When it was his turn to speak, the courtroom felt very small. I made decisions rooted in ego, Caleb said steadily. I thought success meant speed. I thought ambition excused risk. I was wrong. His voice didn't crack. It didn't beg. It owned. I involved my mother without her consent. I betrayed her trust. That's something I will spend the rest of my life repairing. Jennifer's fingers tightened in her lap. The judge leaned back. After a long pause, he delivered the decision. Given your cooperation, lack of prior record, and restitution agreement, this court sentences you to 2 years probation, mandatory financial ethics counseling, and full repayment of penalties. A collective exhale rippled through the room. No prison, but no escape from consequences. Caleb closed his eyes briefly. Jennifer felt something shift inside her. Not relief exactly. Resolution. Outside the courthouse, Florida sunlight blazed bright and relentless. Reporters lingered at a distance, but the story wasn't flashy enough for headlines. Bigger names were involved. Bigger fish. Caleb walked toward her slowly. It could have been worse, he said. Yes, she replied. They stood in silence. Then he did something he hadn't done in years. He asked, "Can we go home?" Not to his condo. Not to a temporary place. Home. Jennifer studied him. Home, she repeated softly. 3 months later. The house on Sandpiper Lane looked the same. But everything inside it had changed. Caleb had moved back. Not as owner, not as controller. As a tenant. He paid rent. He attended counseling twice a week. He took a job at a smaller firm. Less glamorous, less risky. Jennifer remained legally and financially independent. The house was now placed in an irrevocable trust, untouchable without her explicit consent. Every Sunday evening, they ate dinner together. No phones at the table. No deals discussed. One night, as cicadas buzzed outside and warm Florida air drifted through the screened patio, Caleb looked at her carefully. "Why didn't you let them charge me with the forgery on the loan?" he asked. She sipped her iced tea. Because punishment without growth is just destruction. He absorbed that. I deserved it. Yes, she said calmly. But I also deserved a son who learns. Silence settled comfortably between them. You almost sent me away, she added quietly. I know. To erase your mistake. I know. She looked at him. And I almost let anger erase you. His eyes lifted. But you didn't. No, she said. Because love isn't blind. It's disciplined. The words lingered in the humid evening air. Months passed. Probation meetings. Restitution payments. Therapy breakthroughs. Trust rebuilt in small, ordinary moments. One afternoon, Jennifer stood alone in the kitchen, sunlight pouring across the counter. Her phone rang. Unknown number. She answered. Mrs. Holloway? This is Bayview Senior Living. We're confirming your cancellation from earlier this year. Jennifer smiled faintly. Yes, she said. I won't be needing that. She hung up and looked around her home. The photographs. The walls. The life she had built. She wasn't being moved anywhere. Not by fear. Not by manipulation. Not by age. That evening, Caleb came home carrying groceries. Mom, he called. I'm in the kitchen. He walked in and set the bags down. For what it's worth, he said quietly, I'm proud of you. She raised an eyebrow. For what? For not letting me take the easy way out. Jennifer considered that. Then she stepped closer and placed her hand over his. I didn't save you, she said gently. You chose to step back from the edge. He nodded. Outside, the Florida sunset painted the sky in gold and coral streaks, palm trees silhouetted against the fading light. Storms still came to Clearwater. They always would. But this house had weathered one. And it still stood. So did they. Because sometimes betrayal doesn't end a family. It exposes the cracks that need rebuilding. And sometimes the strongest act of love is refusing to let someone destroy themselves, even if it means standing against them. Jennifer turned off the kitchen lights as night settled softly over Sandpiper Lane. She wasn't being moved into a nursing home. She wasn't losing her home. And she wasn't losing her son. She had chosen strength over surrender, truth over comfort, boundaries over blind love. And in doing so, she saved more than a house. She saved a future.